AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Can you move a little bit that way, Ann?
Yep.
I should have had this on before. There you go. We got to get Ann in the picture.
There.
A little bit more, please. A little bit. Oh, there you go. Oh, okay.
I think I may have a face for radio, though.
You don't. I do. No. You can. I just talked with Janice Valentine. It's always great to talk with Janice. She's
I listened to you guys.
Did you? Yeah.
Yep.
She referred to a comment I made as kind of Pollyannish. Pollyanna. And Pollyanna means excessively optimistic or cheerful. I've never been accused of being excessively cheerful or optimistic in my life.
No, you haven't. I believe that is accurate.
But it was a first. I think it was the first I should have had. But anyway,
I hope it's on record and you can play it back every so often.
I certainly I should do that. So again, 955-1400 or go to StreamYard on my Facebook page of the radio station Facebook page.
Just to start with a couple of things,
yes.
I want some housekeeping I want to get out of the way. Of course, tomorrow is Frontier Days Parade,
Absolutely.
So please come on down. I heard you say we might have some rain tomorrow morning, but you know what? This will be my 6th year in the parade, and there has not been rain yet during the parade. So I'm hoping that we're not going to have any tomorrow. We've had some before, we've had some after.
Yeah.
But our parade has always been good.
That's what's expected this time around, as a matter of fact. A little rain early in the morning and then later in the afternoon.
And then the second thing I want to talk about is Governor Reynolds is going to be in Fort Dodge at a rally in the Webster County Republican headquarters, which is 900 Central Avenue. We have spruced the place up for her appearance. And so please come on down and see the governor, because she'll be in town and she's great.
Yeah. And that's at GOP headquarters downtown, right?
Yep.
On Central Avenue.
Yep.
Rob Sand was in town this morning, who is a Democrat, and he's the auditor.
Yep.
And I questioned him. And as a matter of fact, he admitted, I shouldn't say admitted, but he discussed frankly that his office had been very aggressive. As a matter of fact, I think even he acknowledged that he's probably been the most aggressive state auditor we've ever had, since I really don't remember many state auditors before him ever assuming a posture as he has.
Aggressive as far as what? As aggressive as keeping the state in order, or as aggressive against Governor Reynolds?
Well,
because he has launched several investigations that just didn't pan out.
Yeah.
So
well, he is a partisan.
Yes,
it seems to me he is a partisan.
And in my opinion, this is not this should not be a partisan position.
What do you think it should be? It shouldn't be an appointed position, because we should vote on the auditor's office. But maybe we should be more clear about what the auditor's role is.
Yes, I agree with that. I think we should be more clear what the role is. And one of the things I was disappointed that we don't have he's not a CPA, which is very important for an auditor. And I'll tell you what happened. We've had legislation that his office has sent over for the past 3 years, wanting to designate the entire office as a CPA office. So the kids that are the young adults that are trying to get their CPA, they're rotating through there, and which should be great experience, but because he's not a CPA, it's not counting towards their exam experience.
Right, yeah.
And so when we were told all through the election it didn't matter that we didn't have a CPA, it does matter.
Yeah, I asked him if he was running for governor. It was my first question. And of course, he turned on me, and
not this year.
No, I'm running for auditor. I said, yeah. And I said, are you being groomed? And he denied that too. Of course, he's going to deny it. Usually the way to the governor's office is through the attorney general's office. You should spend a little time as attorney general. But Tom Miller, my God, he's going to die in that office. He's been the attorney general of the state of Iowa off and on since the late 1970s.
We have a pretty good candidate for AG this
Brenna
year.
was here just the other day.
Yeah, and so I like that. I like her. I think she's very common sense. She's got good experience. So I'm supporting her.
Well, she's working at it. I mean, she's making all around. She was here in Fort Dodge. Of course, she went over the messenger. And I think that was a waste of time, but that's just my opinion. But, she's been working pretty hard at it. And as a matter of fact, Rob Sands on a 99 county tour, which is, I can't remember when an auditor has been on a tour like that. But he said he was going up to Okoboji next. So, auditors don't do that. I mean, Does he have an opponent in this year's election?
Yeah. Auditor there's two.
Two. Yeah, that's right. There's two Republicans. We haven't decided which one yet.
Yeah. So
That'll be decided Tuesday.
They'll be decided Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to this election being over. It's very with redistricting, we've had several members thrown in together, and it's getting kind of contentious even between our incumbents. So I'm looking forward to the election being over. But the two people running for auditor, Marianne Hanusa, who I served with my first 2 years as a state representative. We served together in the House. She was a representative. And then the other one is Todd Helber.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy too. So I think we have two great candidates. Yeah, Todd Helber.
All right. Our guest is Representative Ann Meyer. And you may contact Representative Meyer right now, live on air at 515-955-1400. 515-955-1400. Or you can go to StreamYard. All these chairs are squeaky today. My God.
That?
Well, they're older than I am, which is a possibility. So anyway, if you want to see someone with a perfect face for radio, that would be me, but not the fabulous Ann here. I should have said fabulous. That's Janice's name. But you said you'd been in every Frontiers Days parade the last 6 years. Have you been in office?
No, I haven't.
So what, you were prom queen the first two times, or what?
I know. I did actually announce that I was running in 2017. So
okay.
I was in that parade, and then the 18, and then 19, 20, and 21. So this will be my sixth parade.
Some Michigan fan has just found it necessary to send me a text reminding me that the University of Michigan baseball team has won the Big Ten championship.
Just so you know.
just to know. Here, I'm going to have to get my baseball cap on that if he's going to start doing this.
He should be calling in the next hour for that.
Yeah, really.
During
when
sports.
he really should. It should be talking with Nevin and Randy, especially Nevin, who's not a graduate of the University of Iowa, but he's a big fan of UI baseball. I don't get to see University of Iowa baseball, and of course Iowa State doesn't have a baseball team because of Title IX considerations several years.
Do you
ago.
just not watch it? Because I'm pretty sure Jim was watching University of Iowa versus University of Michigan baseball
What do you have, a
team.
cable server, or what do you have? I have DirecTV.
We have YouTube TV.
Oh,
so that's a streaming service.
why didn't I think of that? University of Iowa, of course. University of Iowa baseball.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are way ahead of me. Okay.
You know what? I do feel pretty, sometimes I feel old, but now that we have streaming TV, I feel like I've entered the youth age.
You're the big...
Yeah. I feel like we're technologically on point.
Yeah. Well, that's very likely. Very likely. So the session has been wrapped up. We didn't get a school choice plan. Were you in favor of that school choice plan?
I did. I was in
Okay.
favor of it. I still am. I like I said before, I think this bill was great. The way it focused on low-income families and kids with special needs. I don't think it's the whole picture, though. The House worked on a lot of legislation that also addressed some issues that were happening in schools. We had a Board of Education examiner bill that we'd found out in state government oversight that there were teachers that were having inappropriate relationships with students.
Yikes!
They were fired,
I guess.
and their reputation didn't follow them, and they were able to work in other school districts.
Well, why wasn't their teacher's license suspended, and why weren't they jailed? Don't we have the authority of the laws requisite?
And that's what the oversight committee was about, and then that's what the legislation that the House put forward this year was talking about.
Talk
that.
about unequal power dynamics.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Student teacher.
Not regular teacher student. Yeah.
Regular teacher student. I heard the ugliest story some years ago from a friend of mine, a female, and her sister was a top student, but one of her teachers kept giving her failing grades, and the teacher flat out told her, "If you have sex with me, I'll bring your."
Oh my
grades up."
gosh!
And I mean, she was such a competitive student, she wound up doing it, and of course, her grades improved. Now, this was back in the 70s. This is a long, long time ago. But apparently, this sort of attitude among teachers still exists. Some deviant teachers, that's for sure.
I don't know. I don't know. It's just it's disturbing for sure.
We're
And
hearing a
it's-
lot of disturbing stories coming out of the education establishment in the state of Iowa. And that's one of the reasons that I hoped that we could get some sort of funding to private schools. There's always the anti-Catholic sentiment involved in opposition. But really...
Well, we definitely wanted the penalties put in place for
Yeah.
these things, and it wasn't happening. So
It wasn't
that
happening.
it didn't, and that kind of stalled out in the
What, the
Senate.
Democrats were protecting their constituent perverts or what?
Actually, I think there was some Democrat support for this as well. I think
God,
this
I would
was
hope
this.
so.
Yeah, this came out of, like I said, this came out of a government oversight committee,
Mm-hmm.
and we also had some other legislation. So what we ended up with at the end of the year for in favor of school choice, we always talk about open enrollment.
Right.
And I've always said that Fort Dodge, back when Jesse Ulrich was superintendent, he had
Mhm.
explained to me the open enrollment. Fort Dodge can go to Southeast Valley and Manson, and we provide transportation for them. But that doesn't happen all over the state. So at the end of the session, on the last day, since we weren't getting school choice,
Mhm.
we did open up open enrollment. So they can't be refused really for any reason.
Mhm.
If the student parent wants to or needs to change schools
Mhm.
within the public system. And you know what? The public schools, honestly, for the most part, are great, but everything doesn't work for every student. So again, I did support the governor's bill,
Mhm.
and I still do. And we will go back next year, and that we will look at it again.
Sure.
So the governor is out, and she's endorsing some candidates that are pro school choice, which it's unusual to get involved in a Republican primary. You get involved after the people make the choice.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. This is an interesting year for primaries, and that's why on Tuesday I will be glad when it's over.
You'll be glad when it's over.
Yeah.
Did your district change? Your district really didn't
My district
change.
changed a bit. Of course, I have all of Fort Dodge. I still have Badger, Vincent, and Duncombe, but now I go down a little bit I lose Clare and the Deer Creek area up in Humboldt, but I pick up Colville, Otho, a little bit of Stratford, the part that's on the Webster County side, and Lehigh.
You got Otho, huh?
I'll tell you what, I heard a great rumor that Otho Pub is going to be reopening.
I'm looking forward to that so much.
So are we.
I talked to Todd Bigham the other day. I think it was Todd who told me that part of the purchase price of the Otho Pub, I mean, the same folks owned the pub for a long time. And they retired and sold it. But one of the it was in the purchase agreement that the recipe for hash browns went to the new owner.
Oh, thank goodness.
That's just what I heard. I don't know that for sure, but yeah, that was known for great hash browns. I mean, the food was good, but the hash browns really settled on. You got plenty of them too.
Well, yeah, there was no shortage of food. When we first moved here in 2000, there used to be a little ad in the paper, one of those little square
Otho Pub
for Otho Pub, and Jim said, "Let's go down there."
Sure.
And we have been going down there ever since. I
Sure.
mean, at least once a month, maybe every couple of weeks. The only time we did avoid it was during Lent, because it was terribly busy and it was like an hour wait.
You imagine a little restaurant like that in
Yeah.
a little town like Otho.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how starved we are for a good hometown restaurant. We've got all the Applebee's in the world and the Buffalo Wild Wings, and they're all the same. It's great to be able to have a great little restaurant in our town, or in our area, I should say, like Thor up in Unkes. Thor has a good little restaurant up there.
I'll tell you, everyone from out of state that visited us, they all know the Otho Pub. 'Cause that's- we took them there because it was such a
Oh yeah.
fun, and we've got good places in Fort Dodge too. But there's just something about Otho Pub that was, so
Oh, yeah.
special.
Oh yeah. Caddyshack down here, I'll give you. Well, they used to.
Oh,
give
they
you-
have great food.
Yeah.
They do. They're just, I think they're only open for breakfast and lunch though, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so
I don't
that's
think
a-
they do late. I don't think they do dinner. No.
Yeah.
No, and they, I don't know. They can only get so much help for so long, I suppose. I don't know. I don't know the restaurant business.
Yeah.
I know that Old Boston doesn't open for breakfast except on Sundays,
Yeah.
but that's about it.
Well,
What a sigh! Am I boring you? I'm sorry.
no, I guess I don't. You probably don't have me here to talk about restaurants, even though food is one of my favorite things to talk
It's a
about.
community conversation that we have on this radio station.
You want to talk about the end of session? I'll tell you some great things that came through on the Health and Human Service budget bill. We are going to be developing. University of Iowa is going to apply for, and we know that they can support 12 new psychiatry residencies. So after 5 years, we will have 12 new psychiatrists graduating every year. So we are number 44 in the country right now for psychiatrists per capita. We will be much improved by then. We also have a loan repayment program that passed for psychologists, family counselors, and they have to give a 5-year commitment. So that's going to increase access. We increased our telehealth access. So we know we don't have enough mental health counselors or practitioners in Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
We put telehealth on parity with in-person visits, but now we also made it mandatory that insurance companies need to accept out-of-state providers for psychiatry as well, because as long as they hold an Iowa medical license.
Okay.
So you can't just be from anywhere. You have to have a license, but you can live in Missouri, or we have a psychiatrist that moved out of state, used to work at Berry Hill, and they moved to California because of her husband's work, but she still provided telehealth to
Good.
Berry Hill. This just lets them be covered for it.
By the way, veterans, I believe the VA here in town has telehealth available for mental health people who need mental health.
The VA, this is not in our bills this year, but I will tell you what, I've been to the VA several times on tours, and their telehealth program is amazing. You think it's just a screen call. It's just like, you're on a iPad or whatever. Actually, they have texts that go out to people's houses, and they have the technology where, and I didn't know this before I visited. I thought a nurse just went and then called the doctor and let them look at the patient. They actually have equipment. They have a stethoscope that the doctor actually listens to it. And so he can hear heart murmur. He can hear what their lungs sound like. They have a camera that can look at skin. So if you've got a lesion, it magnifies it by so much. In Fort Dodge, our VA system, healthcare, I think, is pretty good.
I do too. I think the telehealth there I've been to the VA over many years for service-connected disabilities and that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess I got turned on to it because my dad was a veteran and he was on the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Committee. That's an organization I don't think exists anymore, but if veterans need that sort of assistance, it's available.
Yeah,
and that's a wonderful thing. The main thing is we get people healthy.
Well,
we've had this awful gun violence again, and it's been, my God, the people who commit these awful crimes are stark, staring crazy. I do, that's not a medical diagnosis, but these folks are obviously murderously dangerous. I mean, the situation down in Ames, I mean, a couple of young women were gunned down in a church parking lot. What is that? That's out of control.
It is.
That's, I don't even know how to respond to that.
And I don't either. There's so many factors. There's so many factors that play into that. I wish I could say there's one answer. I wish we could say, well, we just have to make sure everyone gets mental health treatment. It's not enough, because number
Oh, no.
one, we can't get enough. And number two, people don't always know they need that treatment.
No.
People don't think that they're wrong.
I put myself out there as an NRA member, somebody who owns a lot of guns, and I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, but I understand that things have to change. Things have to change. The pure Second Amendment people need to lighten up. The crazy people like the Betos, and that's what I call those who want to sweep into people's homes and take all their guns. The Betos, after Beto O'Rourke, who's a complete idiot. I know that doesn't make me look good to name call, but in his case, I will make an exception. Anybody, I'm naming these people the Betos. We need to loosen up from our extremist positions. I'm trying to work with Dave Price down at WHO Television to put something together. But look at this guy now. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. I'm trying to organize a group of like-minded people who would like to come together on the issue of gun control and mental health. We can't exist anymore like this, I don't think.
I'm encouraged that in the Senate, in the federal Senate, there is a bipartisan work group working on some common sense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's encouraging, but there is still a lot to look at. There's so many facets that it's certainly nothing that's going to be cured overnight, but if we don't do anything, it's not ever going to be cured.
I have a final question for you.
Yep.
Do you think Governor Reynolds is coming to town Sunday to see Tim Kreinenbrink?
Yes.
I think she's got a little bit of a crush on him.
She texted me that.
Hopefully she wears her glasses.
No, it's when she doesn't wear her glasses.
You should have seen the look he gave me. You're saying this on the radio? Don't you know Sally's on there? All right. Thank you for being with us,
Thanks.
Ann. All right. This is AM 1400 KVFD. The news is coming up, then Senator Kreinenbrink.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com.
Been
Yeah.
laying out there in the sun.
Yeah.
Get your vitamin D2.
That's right. Get out my Speedo. And, all the chicks would really go crazy.
I don't know if we go that. I don't know if we go that far, Mike.
No, I don't think we probably will. No, not at all. Anyway, this is AM 1400 KBFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, and you can, if you have, you can call 955-1400, or you can leave a comment, and you're going to have to go over there a little bit further, Tim. We got half your head on our stream. There you. Oh, there. Now you're perfect. There you go. Senator Kreinbrink, of course, is movie star handsome.
As long as you got the side with the hair on it, right?
We got, you have one side with hair.
I don't have any side with hair actually. So
Senator Kreinbrink complimented me on my haircut. I think it's because it's like his. I think you actually have more hair than I do.
no, actually, I think you look younger today, and I think part of it was you shaved your beard off.
Yeah,
and
yeah. A beard is something you do in the winter, really. I grew
You
one.
still got the mustache on. Must be the popular thing now.
Oh, you know why I got it on. Julie likes it. Why else do you do? Why else does a man do stupid things? Women can make you do the dumbest
I'll
things
tell
in
you
the
what,
world.
Yeah.
Here, wear this purple hat. You'll look great.
She probably says, "Gosh, he looks terrible in a mustache." Hey, would you wear a mustache?
Would you wear it? He goes over to her friends. Look at that dummy over there.
Do you know him? No.
Oh, don't tell me you haven't been there. Said that you are.
No.
Anyway, yeah, Senator Kreinbrink, we're lucky to have Senator Kreinbrink in a unique position. We're lucky to have Senator Kreinbrink in general, but he's in the unique position where he's on the budget committee. Are you the man on the budget committee? You are, aren't you?
Well,
Senator?
I'm the state appropriation chair for
That's
the
right.
Senate.
That's right.
So there's also a state appropriation chair for the House,
Mhm.
and then there is the governor's office. So the three of us are the ones that kind of strike the deal on what the overall spending will be for the state. And then from that point on, we then give the budgets to each one of the like the corrections and education and HHS with help with, which is what Ann is on. So we then give them their budgets, and then they negotiate their priorities, and then come up with a final number of what's being spent. But they try not to go over what we put as the large number. This year it's about $8.2 billion.
That's a lot of money.
It
I
is.
don't
In the
care.
last probably in the last 10 to 12 years, I think that number has doubled. We've gone from a little bit over 4 billion to now a little bit over $8 billion. And compared to other states, I was talking to someone from Michigan last week, and they said, you guys only have a budget of 8.2 billion, and they've got Ann Arbor and Detroit, and they got all these huge cities and a lot more population than what Iowa has. But I would imagine, if we're looking at per capita, we probably are pretty close to the same amount of money per constituent as well. Some of the larger states are as well. So, but we've come a long ways. And I think the biggest take back, and the thing that I've been hearing when I've been talking to groups is, why did we spend all of our money on tax cuts? Why are we
Spend our money.
well,
on
why
things.
are we taking our surplus and we're moving that toward tax cuts? And I guess the thing that we have to understand is that with the amount of revenue that that's predicted to come in, and I've always said it's kind of like church. At the beginning of the year, the church really doesn't know how much money it's going to be getting in from its parishioners.
Right.
But still they have to have a program or a budget put into place, and they have to put some faith in that their parishioners are still going to give. And so what the state does each year, 4 times a year, is the estimating revenue conference actually meets, and they have a very, very rigorous bipartisan process that, with the price of grain and inflation and the going wages, they try to predict how much revenue, both sales tax as well as income tax, that the state of Iowa is going to be taking in.
Mhm.
And then that each year is what we use when we go into session next January to do the following year's budget. Okay. So we're kind of going in with the idea that money is going to be there. that's what our revenue estimating conference has told us. So that's what we plan on. And so I think we're planning on just about $9 billion, a little over 9 billion coming in. And so the nice part about the tax cut is we're not using any of our surpluses to give the tax cut. We're giving our tax cut just on the revenues that are going to be coming into the state each year. So when you say, why are you wasting all your surplus on tax cuts, we're really not doing that. We're trying to sustain our tax cuts with ongoing revenue that's already coming in. So it's kind of exciting. A lot of people glaze over, when we start talking about money and big numbers and those type of things. But it's one thing
this is the grease that runs the government.
Well, and it's one thing that I ran on. I ran on a fiscally sound budget, and our state wasn't being run fiscally sound. And since the Senate was taken over by Republicans, basically, we've had surpluses every single year that we've been in office, and a lot of it is because we're doing conservative budgeting.
Well, the big news, and this is what, if you check the Democratic Party websites, they were celebrating the fact that the governor was not able to get her completely modest plan to give vouchers to people who didn't want to send their children to our increasingly chaotic and perverse public school system. And I say that with great difficulty, by the way. I'm a big believer in public education. I'm a product of public education.
I am too.
I know you are, and I know you taught school earlier in your life. But you know what I'm talking about. That every year it's more money for the teachers union. The teachers union is acting independently of anybody or any sort of control other than their own union membership. And I think it's time to offer people a way out of that. This is me speaking, not Senator Kreinbrink now. But anyway, was the story of the vouchers and the failure of vouchers, was it Republican legislatures in rural area like the Scripture? Was it the reluctance of those folks, those representatives, Republicans, to get on board because they were afraid that their small town schools would close?
Well, in the Iowa Senate, we passed that bill relatively soon,
right,
probably within the first month.
Mm-hmm.
We had one person, Senator Sweeney from Hardin County, is the only senator that voted against it.
Mm-hmm.
And she had her reasons. She didn't really, talk much about it. But that's one of the things with the Senate is we respect each other and
Mm-hmm.
and we treat each other with dignity, and yeah, we might say stuff in caucus that that we believe this way or we believe this way, but yet we still don't make a spectacle out of somebody that doesn't, kind of like you were talking with Janice. I was listening to that conversation, and you may have different opinions, but you still have to respect the other's opinion.
Absolutely.
And
they're right to have that opinion.
Yeah. And when you're talking about freedom of speech or the First or the Second Amendment, and the thing that gets me the most is that the freedom of speech is great, but when you get canceled on Twitter, that's apparently okay. And so I think we need to come together as people and say it's either okay all the time. I mean, all the time.
Right.
So you don't tell anybody else they can't say anything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, there's laws that, like she said, you can't go into a church and yell bomb, or,
Mm-hmm.
Into a theater and yell fire. Or, I mean, there's things that are illegal, but just to have your own opinion on something and then be taken off because you don't follow what that Twitter site or whatever agreed on, or what they believe is wrong. And I think it's being exposed, and I think people are seeing it for what it is. But at the same point, I think there's a lot of people on both sides that still have their own feeling and belief on it, and they still think it's okay to do that.
Yes, they do. One of the who was it? I think it was Charles Blow, but maybe not. Charles Blow is an influential African American journalist and television host. At least he was until the black television channel that he worked for went down the tubes. But anyway, my point is, he always talked about, and some of them always talked about, hitting the other side hard. There was just literally no limits to what you could call his political opponents. Hit them hard, And I've seen that on political websites, sometimes left and right. And it's an awful concept, I think. In regard to these awful shootings, and the idea that only anti-gun people can be repulsed and morally outraged and sick and sad about these terrible shootings is false. Of course, it's a human thing, and we're all that way. But I've contacted Dave Price at WHO Television. I was telling Ann this in the last hour, I would like to do something and bring the sides together. Not me personally; it'll take a combined effort. The point is that I wanted to discuss with Dave on his channel, and also Dave on this radio station, is that we need to reject Twitter. We need to reject social media. We need to reject the extremes, or we're never going to get anything done. These things will continue. Every awful thing that none of us like in our country are going to continue unless we can reject extremism.
Well, a lot of that stuff is separating families, and it
is.
It's that's the sad part about it. And the shooting part, I had some discussions with some people after the school shooting, and and maybe I'm wrong in this, but I think my personal feeling is that a lot of it comes down to the family unit. It comes down to of our parents teaching our children respect for themselves and respect for others. If you were to do that, you wouldn't respect life. You go into a school and shoot up 19 people.
Oh, gross.
Gross. You cannot respect yourself, and you cannot respect life. So this is a much deeper problem than carrying a gun into there.
No doubt.
It's something, and then it comes out that, they've had trouble. He's had troubles with his mom. And I mean, you listen to all the contributing factors, and, any child or any young person or any young adult could probably flip out and do something they wish they never would have done, myself included. I mean, there's things that I've done that I wouldn't have done, if I could go back and do it again.
Right.
But yet, but yet at the same point, whether it's a gun or whether it's a car or whether it's a knife, or in Pastor Henderson's situation, whether it's just beating him or choking him.
You see, in that man,
that
young man was clearly.
Yeah, but he didn't have a gun.
No, that's right.
And so it's just a lack, and there's some deep mental problems there, but yet somewhere there was a failure for that child or that young adult to be able to connect some dots that, and we're not, none of us are immune to it. I just pray it doesn't happen to anyone in my family. I just pray that my kids and my grandkids have the base that they need to believe in themselves and to respect themselves and to respect others.
Well, the situation in Ames, and it was a horrible situation, it keeps getting closer to home. A 33-year-old man from Boone had a 21-year-old girlfriend who was a student at Iowa State University. Now, this young woman was active in church. The Cornerstone Church in Ames is the biggest Protestant church in. The one person who should never be allowed to have a gun is Nevin Mulholland.
And I don't disagree.
I could frisk him quick if you want me to.
That at all.
But anyway, the situation in Boone was this man bought a gun and went back down to Iowa State University, or to the Cornerstone Church, a church.
It's on the corner
outrageous.
of 30 and 35.
It's a big church. Again,
and that was, I think, my brother and sister-in-law go to that church, and she had texted last night and asked us to keep them in their prayers. It was called SALT, and SALT is where all the college kids come, and they have a college night there at the church, and fellowship and Bible study and those type of things. So that was what was going on that evening.
Anyway, he goes there, kills his ex-girlfriend, just shoots her in the face with a gun he bought that day, and for some reason killed her friend as well, and tried to shoot another girl who was there. But instead, luckily, that was it, and he shot himself. I don't know why he just didn't shoot himself if he was that way or so inclined. But that's the fact that these things happen at a church, one of the most horrific church to my mind was a little demon in South Carolina who went into that black church
Right.
and shot 9 people.
Right.
And the next
In
day,
a Bible study.
in
Yeah.
a Bible study on a Sunday, and like a day or two later, there's this picture of these African American congregants that were murdered, and they were all had these beatific faces. They were obviously Christian people, happy and joyous in their faith, and then they had a picture of this little wart, and he was just evil looking. It brought back all the old Catholic things I thought about good and evil.
But Mike, something a long time ago was triggered in that young adult or whoever does these acts. That
He couldn't get a date.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know how that feels.
Yes, I do. But I didn't shoot anybody. I know you and Mulholland, of course. Governor Reynolds is coming to town Sunday. Nevin, you know why she's coming, don't you? The big guy.
Her boyfriend.
She's
I-
coming to
her
see the big
boyfriend.
guy.
I actually think it's Nevin.
Yeah. I don't think so
Gonna
at all.
try to flip. I think we're going to try to flip it.
I have photographic proof here of Governor Reynolds' prediction. So 4:00, Nevin Mulholland, Randy Coleman coming up. Thanks, David.
Thanks.
From tuning an engine to replacing a fuse, you can learn it all under the hood. Heard every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
The first to receive agronomic research results, timely sowing news, producer education invites, and so much more. Connect today at iasoybeans.com.
Michael Devine, Nevin Mulholland, and Randy Kuhlman talking sports at AM 1400 KVFD.
Yeah, that's what we're doing Friday right before Frontier Days. Actually, Frontier Days is going to kick off here in about an hour and a half, I think, isn't it? I mean, I do.
I think 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yeah. Anyway,
They're waiting for this show to get over so the people will rush out.
That's
there
right,
and be part of it.
absolutely, because everybody's got their ear pressed to the radio
That's
right
right.
now, really bad.
Absolutely.
You need to move a little bit to your right there, Nevin, if you want to get into the video
Oh,
here.
I don't want to take
Come
away
on,
from
man.
our face man, Randy
Yeah,
Kuhlman.
yeah,
Face
right.
man is Randy
Yeah.
Kuhlman. Cool. You know, Cranenberg was in here. He jumps right in that video.
Oh, big time. You don't have to push him in there.
Don't get in front of him and the
Yeah,
camera.
that's right. Jeez.
Anyway, if you'd like to join the sports conversation, you can always do it on StreamYard, which is on my Facebook page or on the radio station Facebook page at AM 1400 KVFD or on the Alpha Media website. And you can certainly call 955-1400, 515-515-1400. So what's happening with the Warriors, boys? The Celtics outscore them 40-16 in the fourth quarter.
The 3-point shot
Yeah.
in the pros will make you and break you.
Game break.
All in the same game. You know, the Warriors are very dependent on 3-point shooting, obviously.
Mhm.
And the Celts, struggle for three. Well, but they, the Warriors shoot it well. And then they get in the fourth quarter and go stone cold, and they keep launching, and they really don't have an inside game to speak
Right.
of. That's their game. And then the Celtics get incredibly hot.
Celtics played a good game.
Party
you can't
over.
take that away from
No, not at all. I would
Well,
not take that
yeah.
away from them.
But they had an unbelievable fourth quarter. I think they made 9 threes in the fourth
They
quarter.
did.
9 out of
And
12.
That's a record, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Curry scored 21 in the first quarter and 13 the rest of the game.
Yeah. Well, they were
So-
double teaming him a lot, and they were
They had
really
to.
getting
He's-
after he lit him up in the first quarter. But boy, the Celtics were impressive in that fourth quarter, man. They looked
They
unbeatable.
look good. I haven't seen.
I mean, they were behind 12 at the start of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but they ripped it.
And at one point, they went from down 12 to up 17 in the
It's just
fourth
crazy.
quarter.
But that's that 3-point shot
Yeah.
in the NBA. That's what happens, And I was listening today to talk radio driving in early this morning, and for the last couple of days, everybody, the talking heads, have been somewhat critical of Steph because they claim he doesn't show up in the fourth quarter. Well, my theory on that is I think it's really kind of unfair because I do think by the fourth quarter he gets tired.
He's tired.
He's been carrying the load. And they go, you know what? He's not going to beat us. We'll see if Draymond
Right.
Green or some of these other guys can hit a shot. We're going to double him. And they quite often do double
Yep.
him late in the game. And they say, we're going to let somebody else beat us. So I really think that's, that, to me personally, unfair criticism. I mean, this guy had what, 32 last night?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
The Warriors are the team in the NBA that I watch the most. I prefer college basketball. If I'm going to watch basketball, I prefer college basketball. But I do like to watch the Warriors for the Draymond show.
Yeah.
Well, he was horrible last night.
He was horrible, but every call, it seemed, well, it wasn't every call, but it seemed frequently he was over the
He's a whiner.
wildly gesticulating way of his yelling at. Yeah, some would say he's a whiner. I wouldn't say it to his face. That's
No, but he is. But not to take away from his game. He's had a great year.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not going to let Curry beat me. Draymond Green's going to have to beat
Right.
me. And I feel like the Celtics have adopted that. And that's not to say he can't beat you in so many different ways, handling the ball, defending, rebounding, and some scoring. But I'm going to make him be a scorer.
Well, the other
Okay.
thing that was impressive is Boston's arguably the best player, Jason Tatum, had a bad game. He didn't even score that much, but they had 4 other players that scored over 20 points apiece. And so it was a team effort. Al Horford was phenomenal. I mean, he hardly missed the whole game. The other thing that you got to realize is when shots are going in like they were in the fourth quarter, it does 2 things. Not only you're scoring 3 points, but you're making the other team take the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
So they're not getting fast breaks.
Yeah.
And Golden State thrives on fast breaks, even getting threes off the fast break. And-
right. Transitions their game.
Yeah, exactly.
It
And they
is.
weren't,
They
and they weren't
spread
getting to that because the ball was going through the hole. So
That's a really good point. It's
Yeah.
a really good point because they are a transition team and they all can typically shoot it. So they're hard in transition to guard.
Right.
They just are.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well, it was a hell of a game. I
That was a
watched,
good game.
I watched it off and on, but
yeah, I watched the whole game. It was a good game, and it was like you said, the way they started out in the first quarter, you thought, well, the Golden State's going to handle this one pretty easily, and then the second
that's
quarter,
what I expected.
Then second quarter,
Sitting down, that's exactly what I expected.
I think everybody in America.
and then they were behind at halftime. Golden State
Yeah.
was by 2.
Right.
Then they come out, take the lead, go up 12 in the third quarter, and you're thinking, oh, this one's over. It's at it's at San Francisco, etc. And then the Celtics just come back. What did you say it was 40-16 in the fourth
40
quarter?
to 16 in the fourth quarter.
Unbelievable.
Nobody is better in the third quarter than the Warriors.
You think so?
I know so. If you look at the stats, they're phenomenal in the third quarter. They just light everybody up.
But we just talked about Steve Curry.
I
or
think Stephon Curry gets tired.
Right.
And then by the fourth quarter, and maybe a couple other guys, that's true too. A lot of three-point shooting requires a lot of leg strength. I
Right.
mean, and Curry is moving all the time.
That's right.
He is
And
fun
I'll
to
tell you,
watch.
when you're double teamed all the time, that wears you out too. Because when you're fighting double teams all the time, that you're exerting a lot more energy than you normally do, and that
Well,
wears you
true.
down too.
Well, aren't we talking coaching then? Should Kerr have sat him down?
Maybe.
He sat him down late in the game, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. There was some talk about why, because didn't he was late in the game. I think Stephon Curry was on the bench.
Well,
not too
and
happy
maybe
about
because
it.
he was telling Kerr that he was exhausted.
Well, no.
I don't know.
In the
I-
press conference, I got the sense he was a little edgy about the whole thing.
Stephon was.
Yeah.
Well, I had lunch with some guys today. They really put the blame on Kerr. They didn't think that Kerr rested his players at the right time, or he rested them too long, as some said, and didn't have his. He didn't manage his team very well on the floor, and that's why the Warriors collapsed in the fourth quarter. And that's and I think that's a
Yeah.
point of view.
It is. I mean, that's a legitimate point of view, but when you go cold and the other team is red hot, and it's just an avalanche, and usually that happens when you're on the road, not when you're at home. And this one happened. That's the first playoff loss they've had at home all year. They were 9-0 going into that game during the playoff season.
There's just so much reliance on the 3-point shot.
Right.
There truly is. And I mean, if you go
Yep.
cold, it can really cause harm. And especially with that team, by the way, because they don't really have a good inside game.
Right.
And most teams, college or even pro, more so college, when you're struggling from beyond the arc, you start going inside. And if you've got somebody that can score for you inside, that can really level the playing field, steady the boat, and get you back on solid ground.
Yes.
And they don't have they didn't have it last night. I'm
And
not sure they got
The
it.
other thing is that Boston can D up, and they play good D. And
I've hardly seen the Celtics all year. We don't get them here. At least I don't, unless you get that NBA premium thing, which I don't.
well, they're on a little bit, but I didn't watch a lot of them during the regular season. I was like you, Mike. I was watching college basketball more than anything. But they do play tough defense, and they really threw the D on Golden State as well. And when you got a guy like Draymond Green, who's not a good shooter, and you go double Curry and leave Draymond wide open and say, "Go ahead, we want you to shoot," you're at a real disadvantage because he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean last night.
Well, and the thing about the Celtics is, you're right. They're extremely good defensively. The reason they are is they're very long.
Yep.
They're very long, and they can switch everything. So
Yep.
the pick and
Right.
roll, they're not bothered by that
Right.
because they can switch everything. Everybody out front is a good defender, and they can guard inside too on the roll. And so
That's a good point because there was a couple times Steph did his step back three, and normally when he steps back, he can get that three off. He had 2 of them blocked last night.
they're long.
yeah.
They are. You forget how long these
Yeah.
cats are.
Yeah, because their point guard, I mean, is Marcus Smart, really, and he's about 6'4", 6'5", and really athletic and physical. And everybody else is 6'7" to 6'9".
Oh, Tatum, Brown, Tatum. They said. Now again, I didn't watch the game last night. I just read about it. Watched some clips.
Yeah.
They said he was terrific defensively last night. As poorly as he shot, they said everything else he did was outstanding, whether it be distributing the ball, guarding, you name it, except shooting. But they said he made a huge difference in that game, even though he didn't shoot it like you expect him to.
Who is the head coach of the Celtics? I admit I don't know.
Adoka.
Adoka?
Adoka.
Yeah, he's not very well known, but he's
No.
done a good job.
Is this his first or second year?
I'm not sure. But didn't we say he came from
Well, we talked about
San Antonio or somewhere?
he's from the Popovich coaching tree, San Antonio, but I believe maybe last year or he was with Brooklyn for a year or two, or I think we were talking about that today at lunch. Well regarded, and you know who now runs the Celtics? Brad Stevens,
the
That's
former
right.
who's
coach.
getting a lot of love about the team that he put together.
Right.
Sure does.
Well, in bringing Horford back, he brought him back this year to Boston. He was at Oklahoma, and he was kind of in hiding in Oklahoma, and they brought him
Right.
back. And this guy is
Witness
phenomenal.
protection program.
Jiminy Christmas! Last night, every time they threw him the ball, he was open. He made the shot. He hardly ever missed.
Yeah, and you know that move was panned pretty well on the East Coast of Boston. They thought it didn't make any sense. Why are we got rid of
He's
Horford?
30,
Now
what
we're
is he,
bringing
30,
Horford back.
36, 38 years old.
38, I think, or maybe it's 36. And he's been the real a major difference. I'll say that since this year for them. He has really been good.
Well, Los Angeles isn't going to be able to handle this, being so far out of it as they are. We've talked about the Lakers and their decline before. Do you think it's all age, or did we already talk about this?
Oh, we've talked about it several times. Yeah,
I think it's more than age. I
We're
think
hoping-
they don't have players that fit roles.
right.
Oh, that's right. That
Yeah,
was it,
I think they
You're right. We've talked.
just and I think Ham's going to have his hands full, and he's known as kind of a no nonsense type of guy. So that'll be interesting how, and he's got some egos. LeBron runs that team,
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
and so it'll be interesting to see how he gets along there. I think it's a tough job.
yeah, if you got a player who is actually the coach and the manager, and the
Well, and
general
then you've got
manager.
two other individuals that consider themselves superstars that are also very strong-willed, Westbrook and Davis, and
Yeah.
And Davis is hurt all the time, so that
is very difficult.
makes it difficult.
Yeah,
Is Shaka Smith still the head coach of the University of Texas
he's at Marquette.
at Marquette? I got a great Shaka story, and I should have repeated it on air. I mean, this is hometown boy connection here. There was a guy by the name of Bruce Johnson up in Algona High School when I was there, and he was a year behind me. And he was a pretty good basketball coach. Long story short, he wound up as a high school coach and teacher in Madison, Wisconsin. Well, one of his students was Shaka. So when
Really?
Shaka went to the University of Texas, he got a hold of his old coach and invited him to Texas at his expense, brought the whole family, got him great seats right behind the bench and all that
Oh,
sort of
wow.
thing. They had a great weekend. And I thought that said a lot about the guy, that he wouldn't,
Oh yeah, I always thought he was a class guy.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
too. I mean, and I agree. And Beard is now the head coach at Texas.
did they fire Shaka or not?
He was kind of like dead man walking.
Did-
Okay, Shaka went on his own accord, just like Greg McDermott left Iowa State on his own. But
he
when
got
went
out
to
just
Creighton,
before. Yeah,
Yeah,
just before
they were
canned him.
they were circling. Okay,
They were circling it.
and it was a perfect opportunity for Shaka. I mean, to get out of there and go to Marquette fits his profile better, I think, and it's a great program. I mean, and
Yeah.
Marquette.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Marquette's
hopefully,
in the Big East, right?
right.
Yeah.
Is your buddy Bruce still up in Wisconsin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
He's
good.
retired up there.
Maybe you can get season tickets now. Shaka will hook him up.
Yeah.
You're very close. You can drive to all the games.
I don't think he needs Bruce. I think he just call the UW and say, "This is what I need." I don't know if he went to school there at UW, by the way.
Who?
But he, Shaka
Shaka?
Smith, yeah.
Smart.
No.
Isn't smart? Shaka.
Shaka Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but-
smart. Yeah. But Shaka is, I always thought he was an East Coast guy. I didn't know he was from Wisconsin.
yeah, he's a Wisconsin kid, and he went to was he up there with? Oh,
Because I didn't know the guy until he landed at Virginia Commonwealth and
Right,
turned him into a
right. No, he
outstanding
is a
program.
Wisconsin dude.
Wow.
Definitely.
Yeah, Madison, Wisconsin guy. Yeah, and he was. I don't pay that close attention. If I'm going to watch basketball, it's usually going to be Iowa State or University of Iowa. By the way, is TJ Otzelberger all that? I mean, he had a tremendous season. First season out of the box was out of this world. Went from 2 wins to how many wins, and went to the
20
big
some.
20 some.
22 or yeah,
22.
20 some.
and made it to the Sweet 16, right?
No,
No, did not make it to the Sweet
Did not.
16. No, but
no,
he was,
no. But
Yeah.
he won a first round game.
Didn't he win 2?
I thought he won 2 and got to the.
I think he
Sweet-
did get the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I think he did too. I'll have to look.
I
that
could be
up.
wrong, but
No,
well, what was your point? You mean that you got a raise? You mean? And an
Well,
extension?
yeah, and is he really the guy? You know.
Oh heck,
well,
yeah. Who else you going to get? I mean,
he was
did-
underpaid first of all.
yeah, and he still
They
is
made
probably.
like $500,000 at first.
He's still
Right.
one of the low.
One
Even
and a
with
half.
this raise, he's still one of the lowest paid coaches in the Big 12.
Really.
Yeah, but
They
he's young. I mean, what is he? 35 or
Oh,
something?
yeah, it's just but they signed him for on the cheap, so
Yeah.
it makes sense, and they move him up to 2 million, based upon his performance last year. Okay, betting on the come. All right, looks like he's recruiting well again.
I think they
So-
were worried, Mike, that he was going to jump ship for NIL money.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him for thinking that. He might have done that. Hey, I
He
could
could
do-
make more money in NIL than he could
in
from
NIL.
Iowa State.
That's a sad state of affairs. Have you reconciled yourself to NIL
Oh.
yet, or now? Are you still on the season?
No, I won't reconcile until it's changed.
It had. Yeah, I don't agree with the way it is now
What,
at all.
what did we hear today? That Ryan Day
Oh yeah,
at Ohio State, the head
Ohio
football
State,
coach,
yeah.
he came out and said it was going to cost NIL money. They would have
it
to
will
budget
cost Ohio State
yeah, alumni
$13 million a year to maintain the type of team they have right now.
$13 million a
a
year.
year,
Wow.
and he was just giving.
I mean,
them
this is supposed to be college athletics for crying out loud. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. If they want to be pros, go pro.
Yeah,
And-
Randy, you're still thinking back to the time when we were young, and those days are over.
I'm thinking about 2 years ago, Mike.
No, 2 years ago, this has been bubbling under the surface. You know that for quite a long time, this sort of thing. And now, because the NCAA screwed up,
but they really didn't screw it up.
what do
I
you mean they ignored the problem for years?
okay, ignoring the problem and trying to head it off before it got into the courts. That I'll grant to you. But it was the ruling of court that opened this all up. This was product of litigation. They should have headed
That's
it
right.
off the pass if they could have. I don't know if they could have, Mike. I don't know.
And
But
you knew it once it got in the courts which way it was going to go. It
I
had
don't
to.
know. Well, I don't.
They don't
know.
enjoy baseball special status. And by the way, baseball special status has changed considerably since the 70s.
I think they would really like to try to get.
Oh,
that
they would
status.
love that. They'd all and baseball would
And
like to go back to
antitrust.
the good old days too. There's no
Yeah.
doubt.
Oh.
I watched Noah Syndergaard the other night pitch for the Angels against the Yanks. I had no idea he was there.
I didn't know who he is.
He's a
Oh,
top
he was-
pitcher, top major league
Is he
pitcher.
really?
for
He
the-
came
for
from the Mets.
yeah,
And
All
that's
right.
right. He's with the Angels for the first time this year.
yeah. This is his first year with the Angels. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm settling in for the game, and Syndergaard's on the mound for the Angels. I went, really? Okay. Anyway, Randy and Evan are here. We're talking sports. You can join us, of course, by calling 955-1400 or go to my Facebook page, Michael Devine, and comment on the StreamYard there or at the radio station Facebook page, AM 1400 KBFD. We'll be back.
Divine Intervention is online at yourfortdodge.com, on Twitter at JMike1400.
It's 429 AM 1400 KBFD, the voice of
bad games. Yeah, they're.
Let's face it, the Gales have fallen off in the last few years. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, is that because of low enrollment or?
No, I wouldn't
I don't-
chalk it
I
all
don't-
up to that. I mean, we are playing, we do, we've gotten smaller as a school.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
you have less people to draw from. But, at the same time, I think the Gale girls softball team's undefeated. They're off to the
Yeah.
best start in the
Good
history.
for them.
Yeah, and they're very good. They beat the number 1 team in the state, Newell Fonda, first game of the year. I mean, that got my attention.
Yeah.
But we're just down a little bit in baseball this year. But like I said, they've been very inconsistent. They've had, baseball's a funny game. It's a numbers game. It's like
Mhm.
football, and as many games as they play, you're going to need
You got to have
3
pitchers.
or 4 or 5 pitchers.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's crazy to me.
Yeah.
And a lot of high school teams don't have that kind of depth in pitching depth. And St. Ed's is one of them. They
Mhm.
just don't have that kind of depth.
What was the graduating class this year?
They graduated 200 on, last week.
That's
Not-
at Fort
not-
Dodge Senior High.
Or Dutch,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, senior high. I
St.
think
Ed's is
they-
about 50, 45,
Yeah,
50.
45, 50.
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
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 But,
But,
the girls, I mean, softball wise, you got the Dodger girls are playing really well. They've lost a couple games, but their schedule unbelievable. I mean, they played Valley, they split with Valley, they split with Waukee Northwest. All of them were rated in the top 5 or top 7, and Ankeny Centennial was ranked number 2, and we swept them. So
Are the Dodgers still rated number 1?
I don't know if they will be coming out, but they'll still be in the top 5 for sure.
Oh, golly, yes.
You know,
No
I
and,
gotta
wonder.
start. I gotta start going out to Dodger Stadium and checking
Yeah.
them out.
I watched them play Valley the other night, and here's the interesting thing that because everybody's picking the Dodgers to repeat again as state champs, but we only have 3 seniors on the team, and we lost some good seniors off of last year's
We
team.
did.
One of them starts for Iowa right
Iowa.
now.
Is she starting down there?
Oster?
Doster,
Doster.
yeah, and
I had some of those girls on the air with me. They're just the nicest girls.
oh yeah,
you
great
know?
girls.
And
And-
they were just girls, but you see them play, and I wanted to watch them play. They're tigers. They were tigers last year. They
Well,
really
and
were.
there's this year's team. 2 of the seniors are going to Iowa. Tori Bennett at shortstop. She's an outstanding player. And of course, Jalen Adams, who's considered the best pitcher in the state. And
That's
and-
the coach's daughter, right?
yeah, and she's very good. And she can also hit the ball. And so it's, but the rest of the team, they got one other senior, and then the rest of the team are all freshmen and sophomores pretty much. So they're
Maybe
young.
the best freshman in the state.
Yeah, they got a really outstanding freshman in the
That's Meyer.
Meyer girl. Yeah.
She's
She's
terrific.
she's catching now.
Yeah, that surprised
And,
me a little bit.
She's got a strong arm. Well, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
she's but she also is a big time hitter. And so excuse me, yeah. So they 2 good softball teams. And if you do what I do, I go out when they're both playing at the same time, so you don't have to buy one ticket.
There you
And
go,
you gotta see
man.
both teams
That's
play.
good thinking. Good
know, so-
thinking.
I mean, he doesn't miss a beat.
Doesn't miss a beat.
Boy, I
does-
tell you, he squeezes that nickel.
And
You
then
know what,
sometimes the Gales baseball teams play at the same time too.
So
So
you
it's 3 for the price of 1.
Mike, if you go to Dodger Stadium, you will not get a chance to see the Dodger girls. So
They play out of Harlan, right?
they
Oh,
do. Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to go that direction.
Okay.
The
All right.
Dodger baseball team, they're
They're there.
Have you been out to Harlan? Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
seen the improvement in the baseball
I
complex?
have not.
That's
as
what
of
I was-
yet.
yeah, right.
I have not as of yet. Anyway, Keith Dinklau told me that he graduated from high school in '71, the same year you graduated from St. Edmund,
Really?
and he said that
Did he graduate? I didn't know he graduated. That's
he
great.
did, as a matter of a fact.
All right.
But he was over at St. Edmund so much that some people thought he was a St. Edmund kid, but he
He must have had a girlfriend over there, right?
Oh, his wife,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Girl
the
he
only
married.
thing that anybody thought at St. Edmunds was, what's the matter with Linda? Is she blind? That was the
Oh,
only.
she was in your class.
Yeah, that was the only question being asked.
They've been married. They've been married since they were 19 years old.
Yeah, but let me tell you.
But anyway, Keith told me there were 650 some kids in his graduating class at Fort Ed Senior High in '71.
Yeah.
When my son graduated 20 some years ago, it was 320. Now it's 200. We're
Well,
going the wrong way here, aren't we?
yeah, they graduated. Now they'll have more graduate because they're behind credits, and so they'll pick up some credits in the summer and graduate. But the ones that were had enough credits to graduate. Yeah, they had. I read in the paper that 200 go across the
That's
state,
surprising. Yeah, okay, that
Yeah.
must be why the number's a
or
little-
right around 200. But they'll have more than that overall. But it's just some of them are short a credit or two, and so they're picking it up in the summertime and will graduate.
See, I was thinking they were under 600, but the point being, in 1971, Fort Dodge Senior High was one of the biggest high schools in the state of Iowa.
Really,
If they weren't one, they were 2 or 3. Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Alright.
they were
didn't realize
huge
that.
compared to everybody else. They really were.
In this part of the state, certainly. You'd have to
Well,
go down.
across the state, though, it was a big high school. It was,
Well,
and it's half of what it was then now.
yeah, which
Oh.
is true around the state of Iowa,
Right.
except if you're around Des Moines or Iowa City.
yeah,
other than
that's
that,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think this is interesting. All right. So, Dowling Catholic beats West Des Moines Valley for the state tennis championship this year. Dowling Catholic is coached by Aaron Cholstrom, ex
Oh,
St. Ed's grad.
That is good. Yeah.
West Des Moines Valley is coached by Mike Conlon,
Oh,
ex
really?
St. Edmund. Right. Both state champs now coaching in Des Moines, and they were coaching against each other, and they know each other well
Yeah.
for the state championship. Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's a small state when you
Yeah.
get right down to it. It's a small state. You know, I've said before, my best friend when I was a kid lived across the street from me. He was a college roommate of Mark Katie's down at Drake. I think they were only there one semester, but yeah.
You know, and if I'm right, I think I am. I think Dowling this spring, they won the state boys state championship in track. They won it in tennis, and I think they won
This
it
girls tennis team.
in girls tennis.
Yeah.
And then I think the girls team won, maybe the boys. One of them won the state championship in golf. So their spring sports has been amazing this year.
Well, you just
So-
got those St. Ed's guys down there coaching them up.
Yeah, there you go.
Coaching them up, man.
We need to get them back to Fort Dodge.
Yeah,
No
no getting back
kidding.
to Fort Dodge. I know we have some pretty good coaches here. I mean, we do. I think is the lot coaching. Is he still coaching? Or not?
Coaches every sport at St. Ed's. We have one coach out there, and it's
Oh,
a
no.
lot. Well,
Korkendorfer is
well, no, Adolph's the head coach, basketball coach, and Mike Zalat is the cross country coach, head coach, the wrestling coach,
he's
and
the wrestling coach.
and
really?
the head baseball coach. Yeah,
We still have Dylan over at the
in
at-
football.
Football, yeah.
Adolph is the basketball coach, and
Yeah.
coaching girls is
I know his face, but I
Oh, my
his
golly.
name eludes me.
I
now.
just-
That's terrible.
yeah, it is trouble. You got to get younger guys on the show. I mean,
How would
it's-
I talk to them?
I don't know. That's right.
Who are you again?
Dementia loves company, I guess. So we make Mike look good, Randy.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Yeah.
it, boys. Yeah, I appreciate it. By the way, I've got a text message into Audie Crooks up at the Garrigan, who has a Fort Dodge connection, of course. And I'm trying to get her on this program sometimes when she visits her old hometown here. I guess she never lived here, but sometimes when she visits
her dad
her
did,
yeah, her
certainly
dad,
did.
Jimmy Crooks,
Yeah.
when he comes here, when she comes here to visit relatives, hopefully. we
Well,
can get her on
and
the program.
Audie, I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but she got invited. I mean, it's amazing. She got invited to the USA Junior Women's Team tryouts. You know, I think they invited what they considered to be the top 30 or 35
1800.
high
It's a
school
big
high school
deal.
girls players in the country. So for
It
her
will-
just to get invited is quite a
It
quite
will
an
be
honor.
interesting to see how she performs because
Yeah.
that's the best of the best. I mean, that competition level, hey, that's not Class A and I.
That's right.
No.
You're going to be.
No, it isn't.
There,
But she is, and I've seen clips of her. And I should have got up there to see her just to see her, but she is a very big, strong, agile girl. She really is, and you're right. She towers over the little farm girls in Garrigan's conference, whatever it is. But she moves very well for a big girl, very well, and she plays the game with certain joy. That's the only way I
Yeah.
can describe it. I mean, she
Well,
really
she's-
enjoys
yeah,
playing
she's a-
basketball.
what
I
I
think she
what I
said a
understand.
state-
She's an outstanding young lady. So
What I understand, yeah, I think she set a state shot put record. I mean,
yeah, she did. You're right.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's just so I hope we can get her here. To
if I
speak
was
with her.
that good, if I scored like that, I'd enjoy the heck out of the game.
Yeah.
I would be. You're dang. I would
But
be
you're
one.
right. You're right. I've seen some of those girls, the Oklahoma women's team. Whoa.
Oh,
Well, the Oklahoma women's team, we had two of the best women's team in the state of Iowa, better than Oklahoma.
You think so?
Oh, Iowa and
geez.
Iowa State.
Iowa and Iowa State.
Just not quite good enough to beat the
Creighton.
Jays.
Oh,
The
God,
Creighton
here we
Blue
go,
Jays.
Here we go.
I mean, I have to admit, it's our worst nightmare. 'Cause they beat
It
both
was.
Iowa and Iowa State.
It was a dream come true for me over here.
and still, I have this spot open over here for a Creighton.
It's
Blue
in my
Jays.
car.
Hey, I'm
Well,
just,
it's
my-
old. That's last
I
year.
know,
I've been
that's what I
saying this
thought.
for years that Creighton is a girls' basketball school. That's what I've been saying all
We're
along.
gonna take whatever we can get, man. And Pat Lennon, you owe me beer on that Iowa Creighton game. He thought he was so cute. Hey, how about we bet that girls game? I go, you're on. He was stunned, as I was, by the way.
Right, everybody was, yeah.
As I was.
I didn't know this, and now that I know, I'm sickened to know it. Because you're right. We're never going to live it down. It's
Oh,
never going to
yeah.
happen.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
It really was. I won't be the
true.
first to tell you that.
Well, how bad did they beat Iowa? Do you know?
Oh, it's like a 1 point game. And the girl that beat Iowa on the last second shot used to play for Iowa. For
Oh,
Christ's
really?
She transferred
Transferred.
from Iowa because she wasn't playing much.
She was
to
playing behind
Creighton.
Clark girl.
Well, but
Caitlin
the other
Clark.
girls too.
Yeah.
She wasn't getting a lot of and she was terrific that day.
Oh yeah, I was
She
at that
had like
game.
16 or 18. And that was a big shot.
Well, so
hit
she
the
got a
game
little
winner.
bit of payback to the University of Iowa for benching her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
How bad they beat Iowa State then? The
Well, it was a
Cyclone.
close game, but it was more than one.
Yeah,
But
it
it was a
was.
close game. It was a competitive game.
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
were-
both Iowa and Iowa State are.
I'll tell you, Creighton, could shoot the three ball, the girls team, and they were very physical. They knocked Iowa all over the court, and the officials were letting them play, and so that really took Iowa out of their game a little bit. And they were
Wow.
physical with Iowa State too.
well,
But I'll tell you, both Iowa and Iowa State have everybody coming back, and Iowa State picked up a 6'6" transfer from California.
Whoa.
So Iowa State, I think, going into the season next year is going to be ranked in the top 5 in the
well, and
country.
you got maybe one of the best players in the country in Clark. At
and Clark,
Iowa.
yeah. So
Let's we got to stay with the University of Iowa in the men's team now. What did we ever do with Murray? What happened?
He's
with
back.
This guy? Is he back
He-
now?
he committed. He's coming
gone.
back.
He's coming back. He's gone. He's coming back. So he's coming back.
It's
He's
huge.
going to play again.
It's huge for the Hawks.
It is huge.
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
it's
Hawks.
huge.
It
And-
sounds like he had a good NBA camp. I
Yeah.
mean, so if he makes the kind of improvement that his brother made from year 1 to year 2,
which
playing,
was huge.
yeah, I mean, what I read, they think he will get
Yeah.
drafted next year. They won't.
Yeah.
They don't think he'll be there for 4 years.
Where's his brother at?
He's waiting to
Keegan
figure out
is
where he's
waiting.
going to be.
He's a potential lottery pick. I think the draft's coming up in a week or two.
He's a lottery pick. He'll
He's
be
a
in the
lottery
top
pick?
10.
Yeah.
It'll be
Okay.
shocking if he's not. Everything I've read has him right around 5,
Yeah.
the 5th pick.
Yeah. If Kyler is worth, or he had a good NBA camp, it's surprising that he didn't jump. All the money they
Chris.
dangle in front
Chris.
of him, or Chris, excuse me. Yeah, the other guy's out in Arizona.
Well, I
playing
think
football.
they probably told him. My guess is they said,
Not ready.
"We're impressed, but you're not ready. Go back for one more
It
year."
could be.
Because the other news is, of course, the AJ Green, who Iowa State was hoping to get from UNI, who was
Right.
the Missouri Valley Player of the Year 2 times in a row. They were hoping that he'd get transferred to Iowa State, and they needed that perimeter shooter, which he is, and he is going to go into the NBA draft. He was like Murray. He had a lot of tryouts, and evidently he impressed them enough where they convinced him, stick with us. We're going to draft you, or at least we're going to sign you, and you'll get a 2-way contract that's worth at least a $500,000. Yeah.
This is the Elderly Brothers Sports Show, and that's Randy, Nevin, and I. And what is the name of the starting quarterback of the Phoenix Cardinals? Kyler what?
Murray.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I mean, that Kyler name was stuck in my head. I couldn't get it out of there.
I'll tell you the other thing about on basketball that we haven't really talked about, and this is your team, are the Bulldogs next year. They have virtually everybody coming back.
Right.
They got a couple stud recruits,
Mm-hmm.
and they got Tucker DeVries, who is the Mo Valley Freshman of the Year.
Right.
Who did he make first team Valley or?
I don't know. I don't know that he did,
But
but
he had a
was
great
close. Oh, yeah.
freshman year. I think he averaged 14.
Yeah, and
And-
in the last half of the season, he averaged more than that. I mean,
Okay.
he was phenomenal.
But this team, this Drake team next year, maybe, Iowa will
Even
be
that
good.
big
but
Brody kid came back for his 6th season, and Yeah, I was glad to see it because Fort Drake, they've been hurt by the transfer rule big time. They lost a 7-footer all Mo Valley player that transferred to Minnesota, and then they lost Joseph Yusufu that went to Kansas and sat on the darn bench. I mean, that was the dumbest move that guy could have made.
And he'll sit there next year probably.
Yeah,
based upon
if he sticks
the
there.
recruiting and who's coming.
If they
back
don't run
from
him
KU.
off, they might have run him off.
Yeah, but
You know.
I think he's screwed. I hate to say because it's too late to transfer now.
Yeah.
Well, we got to talk a little MLB, Major League Baseball, because it actually is the season to talk about Major League.
We don't want to talk about today, Mike.
We don't want to talk about it today. I want to talk about the Yankees just for a minute. By the way, just as an aside, Joe Girardi got fired as manager of the Philadelphia Phillies, which I attach no particular significance to at all. But
Ex-Cub.
Yeah, he was,
Of course he got fired.
he played for the Cubs, right? He was
Right.
Yeah.
wasn't he a catcher?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Good,
yeah.
good player.
Yeah.
I always liked Girardi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. And he had some good years with
Born
the
and
New York
raised in
Yankees.
Illinois, if I'm not mistaken, in the Chicago area. Maybe.
Was he?
Could be.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
But anyway, the Yankees, and I got my Yankees cap out here somewhere.
So now you're a fan, huh?
Jeez.
Well, we talked last week about really and you were in on this, Mulholland. We talked last week about when we were little boys, how we all liked the New York Yankees. So I thought,
I liked the Yankees back then.
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody did.
Not as
Man.
much as the Cubs, but
All right.
I should have liked them more and the Cubs less.
Those were lean years for Cub fans.
They've been lean. We had 1 year. Okay, that's about it.
I still suffer from the Lou Brock trade. Ernie, what was his name?
Borglio.
Borglio. You know, and a few years after the trade, Lou Brock was setting records as a base stealer, and poor Ernie, was out in a warehouse working in California, where he was from. The worst trade ever. Anyway, I that's only been 55 years ago. I'm not over yet.
I know my dad wasn't either.
So you've been a Yankees fan for the last 60 years?
No, I was not a Yankees fan because Steinbrenner killed my pride in the Yankees. George Steinbrenner was one.
That's when I shifted.
He took control of the Yankees and he just ruined them. I think. I don't care. You know, he used to say, "Look what I've done. I've won World Series." I don't care.
Bottom.
You're a big. You know, it's all about you. And look what a genius I am. And he always used to say, you know, you got to be tough if you're from New York. Well, he was from Cleveland and he lived in Tampa, but he was always saying, well, you got to be tough. You know, he was just a blowhard. And I stopped.
Successful blowhard.
He was a very successful blowhard. There's no doubt about it. The man made money. But he just wasn't a baseball guy.
My God! But his baseball, those teams were great under his leadership.
Not at first, if you remember. 69,
I remember is in the late '60s, and
they went down the tubes fast.
Well,
in the early to mid '70s,
but
early '70s, they placed last.
He got when free agency became free agency after Curt Flood and what have you. This guy got after it. You might even analogize it to the NIL. It might be the same thing, but that's when it opened up baseball. And Steinbrenner was extremely aggressive.
That was 74,
and
Andy Messerschmidt.
And it ruined the small market teams, right?
Well, I don't know if it ruined the small market teams. I think they're all making money.
Well, they might have been making money. They weren't winning.
Well,
I mean, the Twins. Think about the Twins before all that happened and how good they were.
Well, the Twins won 2 World Series in the 80s too.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they're. And so did even the Royals. The Royals won a couple World Series. And God, I hate to say the Cardinals.
The Cardinals, we don't like to admit it, but they have been a premier team in Major League Baseball.
I'm going to have to make another donation to Tony Trotter. I can't
What do you bet,
myself.
$1 a game or something?
No. That's chump change.
That's chump change?
I am single-handling funding Tracy's new wardrobe every year. That's what we're talking about. We're talking real money.
You know, and Rizzo is just tearing it up for the Yanks. I haven't recovered from that fully yet.
But the rest of these guys aren't. Baez is not.
Yeah.
He's in Detroit, and he's having a tough year.
Is he?
And I haven't followed
Chris Bryant over in Colorado is where he's at now.
Exactly. And
but he had a good year. Was the Giants, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had a good year with the Giants.
He had a good.
He's a solid player. He's a good, solid player. He's not. I admit, I thought he was a Hall of Famer the first couple of years when he got with the Cubs.
Right.
I really thought he was going to be terrific. He turned out to be a better than average player. We shouldn't have let him go.
Well, he's being paid more than better average money.
Yeah.
He's being paid big money to be a superstar. So he better start playing like a superstar.
Why? He's got the money anyway.
No, but the point is they're paying him and the Cubs didn't and wouldn't. And maybe the Cubs knew, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But instead of paying him that kind of money, they decided to go another direction. So,
It occurs to me that one of the Twins' World Series victories in the late 80s was over the Cardinals, wasn't it?
I think so.
Was it? I think it was. Is that satisfying for everybody or not? Dave,
I
the
think
Flatteries
so.
are big Twins fans, both of them.
Really?
Oh, yeah, they are.
Well, I know that. I've listened to that for 40 years.
But it appears to me the Cubs have now become a AAA team because it seems like every time they get a good player, then they're ready to deal him and trade. Now it's Contreras.
Oh, really? Where have I heard that before?
Well,
Right.
they're trying to rebuild their team, but golly, you wonder about the Ricketts. They're making big money, and there have been complaints about, hey, we need to be putting more of that money back in the team. And
It says